What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a strange 3 o'clock in the afternoon crunch time. We're doing basketball, then baseball, and we love baseball so much we're going to do some more baseball after that. Welcome. I am joined today by Mr. STL Cards and Agents of Fandom himself, TJ. TJ, this is I don't know. We're going to try to cover as much as we can. We're going to do basketball first for about 20 minutes, talk some baseball early slate, talk some baseball late slate. Hopefully you guys are playing everything. What's up, dude?
I'm skipping out on NBA, but I'm playing both of the MLB slates today. We got a busy one, but I'm excited. Happy Easter, Passover, whatever's going on that you are celebrating right now. Happy all of it to you. And I'm ready to dive into these sports slates.
Yeah, Cards, I saw you had to do some tags and an article for basketball today. How does that feel? You look at these, you're like, who are these guys playing? And then we have the Nuggets. They're playing all their starters, I guess. I don't know why, but I guess that's what they're going to do today. Strange little 3-game NBA slate we have.
Yeah, mainly I'm dreading what I'm going to write tomorrow when it's the final day of the regular season and it locks at noon and everybody plays. Today wasn't too bad with only 3 games to kind of get your arms around it, but tomorrow on a holiday with kids and all that and all the NBA teams, I'm pretty much not looking forward to how the NBA slate's going to break down tomorrow. But we got a few things to get through before we get there, so I suppose I shouldn't worry about that just yet.
Tell the wife and kids to leave you alone locked in a room for about 4 hours, Justin.
You let me know how that works.
It does not work out well. Let me tell you. All right, so Justin, you had to write today. I've got a couple of your core plays on. I added a couple more specifically on Fanduel, our sponsor of the show. Thanks to them for sponsoring. If you are in a sportsbook state, you can get them a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. And if you are in Massachusetts, they have their own special promotion. Bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets. Make sure to check out Fanduel, great sponsor of the show for all your sports bets if you have the availability. But what are we doing here? Chris Dunn, 80%. Why was this dude not in the NBA on some roster for the entire season? It takes towards the end of the Jazz where they're just sitting everybody for him to get on there. And he can ball out. He's going to be the highest owned player on the slate for sure. Kawhi, at some point, you need raw points. He should be in there. The Clippers do have something to play for today. So they're trying to lock up their seeding. You've got a couple other different Luka. We know the Mavericks went into tank mode to get a draft pick. But we've got another Luka to play today. How are we handling the slate? And then let's talk about Denver, too. The first game, playing some of their guys. What are we expecting? Are they going to go all out to play?
Yeah, no, I don't think Denver is going to go all out. They really don't have any incentive to. It worries me. If all those guys would have been out, this would be kind of your typical late season slate where you could leave a bunch of money on the table because none of the highest end plays grade out super well. I mean, Jokic probably not getting full minutes. Westbrook's really expensive. Towns kind of still working back into shape for the postseason. So it's a slate where in GPPs you could maybe leave some money on the table today and feel okay with it. But if you're playing cash games, I mean, you got to spend up on somebody. So I think, Leonard and Edwards are going to be the choices. The question you have to ask is, what are these teams going to do? Like the Clippers, if they win, they clinch the 6th seed and they stay out of the play-in spots, which is important. And then if they get that taken care of today, which they should against Portland at home, then they can rest some guys tomorrow. Minnesota could, in theory, still get there to the outside the play-in spots, but they'd have to win both their games, and the Clippers would have to lose both their games, which, again, the Clippers probably aren't losing to Portland. So I am a little bit more worried about the motivation angle with Minnesota than I am with the Clippers. And those are the only 2 teams that have anything at all to play for today. So if I'm prioritizing safe, I like the Clippers a little better. So that's why I like Leonard over Edwards. You might see people with differences of opinion on that, but I just worry about Minnesota if they're going to, go all out, whether they think they can move up or not. Plus they're favored by 14 against the Spurs who want to lose. So pretty much just the Clippers for me. I think that's a team with anything to play for. And then you've got Utah without their top 5 players. So that's where you're going to get the value today. And that's kind of the general lay of the land there.
If you had to pick Let's talk Denver here in the first game. Anyone off the bench?
Let's not. Let's just X button that whole team.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, X button Denver.
We're
X
just
button the whole
putting-
team. You don't play any Denver Nuggets today.
We're just all out on that. So no scenario where even guys off the bench. We've got them at 25, 23 minutes. I guess you don't
Yeah,
really
they're going
know
to
they
play
can
like 12 guys 20 minutes today.
Yeah.
yeah. And then they'll probably sit all their stars tomorrow, I would imagine as well.
Look at all that red in the RG value right now.
RG value not great today.
It's only a 3-game slate, but like this is a 5-team slate. Like you can just completely take all the Denver guys out of there. We can use Utah for value, San Antonio for value, get different with a few Portland guys maybe. But the big focus today is obviously the Clippers and Minnesota. I honestly think in your main lineup, your cash lineup, your single entry, the answer is you kind of have to play both Anthony Edwards and Kawhi Leonard today. I don't think you can cash without both of them in the same lineup.
All right. Let's get the likes going for TJ. I know we're going to be talking baseball in a little bit, but let's get the likes going up. We'll try to hit 50. You'll get your first Spidey bomb of the day. So start racking up those likes. TJ, the rest of the value from if you're playing cash on a 3-game slate with 5 teams, right? You're a diehard. I don't know if there's that many diehards wanting to play cash games at the end of an NBA season. From a tournament perspective and cards, maybe you can even lean in here. There's a lot of strange value. If you haven't played NBA DFS in the last week or two, or you're just tuning in, you're like, who are some of these guys? What are the names of the players we need to be looking at? What are the value plays that have the best chance of success? Maybe some of the guys we have high on that might flop for people today in tournaments. TJ, I'll start with you.
One guy I kind of want to add to our core playlist here for optimals is Mamu Kelishvili for the Spurs. Zach Collins got ruled out for the last 2 games of the season. That hasn't updated for us on the projections here, but he's got power forward eligibility and he's $700 cheaper on Fanduel than he is on DraftKings. So like as long as he's in the starting lineup, that's probably and like people may have missed that. That's probably something like as long as he's starting, I'll probably play him in 100% of my lineups on Fanduel.
Cards, would you throw him into the core? I would expect him to start with Collins out.
Yeah, I think that's a big change. So interested to see where projections come out because again, this is another team that tends to roll 10 or 11 guys in their rotation, but the price isn't too bad. The center only eligibility is only DK. So I don't know, maybe just short of giving him the tag, but I certainly think that he's going to, if I was building 100 lineups here, it's not going to be that difficult to get over the field because this news is breaking relatively late. So don't mind that.
All right, Cards, outside of Dunn and maybe Luka, what are some of the other value plays we're looking at? And then do you have any that might be popular that you're a little iffy on that we might want to fade it from a tournament perspective?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of hot takes here as far as tournament fades. Sharp is going to be a little higher owned now with confirmation of Portland news here that kind of came down. Eubanks is out today, so and Sharp, but he's all the way up to 8,200 now on FanDuel. I would maybe think about him being a guy that you go underweight on in tournaments. Just because people are going to get there where they need to use salary and, position eligibility and all that. But he's only projecting, say 3 points higher than Kyle Anderson, who's $1,800 cheaper, yet Sharp is going to be 50% owned. So assuming our latest ownership update is correct. So Sharp is a guy that I'm probably looking to be underweight on. As far as the other players, I think if you're playing cash, it's a pretty narrow pool today. I mean, you're probably rounding it out with some of those other Utah value guys, Fontecchio, Agbaji. They're moderately priced and going to play 30-plus minutes today. Skylar Mays is getting a little bit of buzz. I don't like him quite as well as the others. Johnny Juzang. I mean, these are guys that you can they're certainly going to project fine for cash games today. But Sharp is the guy I'm looking to be underweight on. I think somebody like Zubac would be an interesting guy to potentially get overweight on from a tournament perspective. I actually liked Zach Collins for tournaments before he was just ruled out. So make sure you're getting him out of your lineups. But yeah, those are some of the other takes from me today.
TJ, do you have someone you might want to be a little underweight on?
Some of this value that I just don't really feel like we need to force in, like Juan Toscano Anderson coming in at almost 20% ownership. Not Damian Jones. Ju Zhang is another guy that's going to be getting about 20% that I just don't really feel like I need them on this slate. I want to make sure I'm getting done Edwards and Kawhi and basically every one of my lineups, Mamu in most of my lineups, and then just differentiating if I'm playing a bunch of them with a couple 2v2s kind of throughout everywhere. I think Dunn, Edwards, Kawhi are your kind of lock and load spend ups in every single one of your lineups, and then you mix and match with some of the value. But the guys like Juan Toscano Anderson, Ju Zhang, guys who aren't great point per minute producers, and it's like, yeah, they're probably going to get 25 minutes and they're cheap. Those are the guys that I'm trying to avoid today, and I'd rather take some shots on people who maybe are a little bit more expensive, maybe are a little bit more uncertain, especially on this Spurs side. Like with Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins out, obviously they could still play a bunch of guys here, but we do have a lot more value opening up. And so guys like Mamu and guys like Julian Champagny, however you say his name, you can play him at $4,900 at shooting guard on DraftKings, $5,400 at small forward on Fanduel. He's been playing mid-20s minutes lately with a very high usage rate. Last 3 games, 14, 11, and 14 shots. And now tonight there's no Keldon Johnson or Zach Collins, so we should just go up. To me, the good chalk are those 3 of Dunn, Edwards, and Kawhi. I think Samanic is fine as well. And then outside of that, I think I'm kind of looking to differentiate instead of playing these 20% owned guys who are probably going to have 18 to 20 fantasy points.
All right, I want to take some questions. We're going to do NBA till 3:30. At 3:30, we're going to switch over to the early baseball slate. So if you guys have any questions, throw it into the NBA Crunch Time in the RotoGrinders Discord for you premium members. I'll make sure we get to those. And then after that, we will go to YouTube. So let's see what we can dig up in the trenches on a 5-team slate, not 6, because we have are Xing out some of these Denver guys. Let's see. I'm going to YouTube. I don't see any in Discord. If you guys want to put any and you are premium members, I will get to them. Cards, you just talked Shaden Sharp. TJ, do you have a 30-second take on him today?
Very high upside, but there's also a chance coming back from injury, they could just run him out there for 28 minutes. And if that happens, I don't want to play him. And so that's honestly a kind of a guy that if I have the salary, I have no issue rolling to him. I'd rather go with him than just leave a bunch of salary on the table to go down to like a Norman Powell or a Skylar Mays. But he's not going to be a main target for me.
Billy from YouTube wants to know, John Butler and Damian Jones, are those 2 guys you would want to go double center with today?
The one thing I want to go back with quick on just back to the Shaden Sharp thing.
Oh, yep.
In a lineup, if I'm playing Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac, who I really like today, Norman Powell, all in the same lineup, then I want to play Shaden Sharp. If I only have 1 or 2 Clippers, Kawhi's the only one, something like that, then I definitely like fading him. But if I'm playing 3 or 4 Clippers, especially on FanDuel, I'm probably going to want to run it back with a Portland player.
All right, cards. John Butler, Damian Jones. These guys seem like, even on a 5-team slate, very fringy players to be doubling up on.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you'd play both of them in the same lineup. I can probably get behind using one of them as a GPP punt, but it's not like you need salary relief on this slate. So I would stick with one. I think I like Jones a little better.
And I honestly can't get behind using Butler, period.
All right. Darren from YouTube wants to know FanDuel tournament. He's got a 3-piece, so pay attention. Trey Jones, Gobert, and Ju Zhang, or Towns, Conley, and Fontacheco.
The second one, but I don't really like Conley. I'd honestly rather go with Bones Highland.
Cards, you have a favorite there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a strong take on that one, so I agree with TJ though.
I'm a sicko. I bet Mike Conley points prop today, so that's I think it was 12.5 or 13.5. So I did.
It's one way to make Mike Conley's game exciting.
Yeah, I got so to sweat it out on Mike Conley. Favorite point guard on FanDuel not named Dunn today. Everyone's playing Dunn Who are we playing other than him today, Cards?
I mean, in cash games, it's probably Conley. I don't know if I like him a ton for tournaments. Like maybe you can go with a Trey Jones or somebody in GPPs, but the most common pairing surely is going to be Dunn and Conley.
TJ, you have anyone?
I agree. Conley is the cash kind of play, and then my ways of getting different in tournaments would either be Bones Highwind, Shaq Harrison, or Terrence Mann. Or honestly, you want to hear the GPP play of the day?
Oh, everyone wants that. If this is the Chris Dunn call from a couple weekends ago, everyone pay attention.
3-game slate, and this is dependent on Jalen Noel being out, and he's currently a game time decision. Austin Rivers has already been ruled out with an illness. Mike Conley is going to be chalky. Play Jordan McLaughlin. At almost minimum price at Fanduel today. Almost $700 more than minimum price on DraftKings. Spend up everywhere else. He's probably going to get 16 to 20 minutes. And if he puts up 15, 18 fantasy points in that amount of time, that's going to be fine. But this is also San Antonio. If they blow out San Antonio when he plays 24 minutes, he could be a slate breaker at this price. So especially if Jalen Noel is out, play Jordan McLaughlin.
Well, let's see. Going back to YouTube, I don't really see too many questions.
And I like that a lot more on FanDuel than on DraftKings, where the point guard position on FanDuel is just disgusting.
I don't really see too many other questions. If you guys have them, put them in. If not, Cards, I think I'm going to flip this over to baseball for a second. So I'll keep an eye on YouTube and Discord for basketball questions. But I think we've covered the best we can. Locks in just a couple of minutes. You guys ready to flip it over for the day slate of baseball?
Good here.
Sounding good. All right. Let's do that. So I'm going to X out, thankfully, the NBA from Lineup HQ. And let's talk day. What I really want, Cards, is I want the day slate pitchers and I want the night slate bats. Can we mix these together? Can we have the all-day slate, but it be for all the monies today? Because then we get Coors and the Dodgers and we get games in Arizona. And it just seems like that's what I want to do. Because other than that, it's basically there's maybe two main pitchers, and then we've got the Tampa Bay Rays offense. I think that's generally what most people are going to do today. I'm going to throw it to you for pitching first here. From the day slate, we've got Springs and Lodolo look like they're the clear two options. On FanDuel, Springs, he's priced up. They priced him up. DraftKings is just like, play whoever you want today. You can just have these guys for free. The difference of $1,300 to Lodolo on FanDuel, does that make a difference to you? Do you think maybe Senga and Steele? I like Steele from a tournament perspective quite a bit going up against Texas. He's the cheapest. It gets you all the bats that you might want on the early slate. But what do you think of that price difference on FanDuel between Springs and Lodolo? Do you have a preference there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can go down if you want. I don't have a problem with going down to Lodolo or Steele in any format on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I think you got to play Springs, especially since you're playing two pitchers. But on FanDuel, I'd be comfortable with any of those guys. I'm a big fan of Lodolo's talent in general. Obviously, tough matchup, but the Phillies have struggled in the early going. Steele is a guy who seems to kind of be coming into his own and good weather for pitching there. So, yeah, I like all three of those guys. I think those are really the only guys in my pool today. I'm not playing Perez. Senga would be the fourth one that I would throw in there. He's the lowest owned of the bunch, and B, he's facing the Marlins. First start looked pretty good. His strikeout prop isn't too far down below Springs and Lodolo either. So Senga would be my fourth, and that's really it. I don't see, some people, I'm not as big of a Brady Singer fan as some others, so maybe some people would throw him into that mix too, but I am leaving him out. So yeah, Springs, Lodolo, Steele, and Senga for me, with Springs being the clear number one on DraftKings. On FanDuel, though, if it helps you get the bats you want, I don't mind going down to Lodolo or Steele.
Yeah, I think I'm playing them both on DraftKings, but I think I've went down to Lodolo on FanDuel for my main team today. And I want to note Springs 6.5 Ks. You can get that plus money, I think, close to around the industry. I know I got it at I think plus 105. It was up to plus 110. So check around on the books. Do we like the 6.5? He mowed down 12 Tigers. I look at this Oakland lineup. TJ,
Jalen Noel ruled out. Play Jordan McLaughlin on Fanduel and win all the money today.
it's 3:31, so hopefully you didn't have any nuggets in your lineup.
Yeah, you didn't. Hopefully you didn't have any nuggets. Anyways, yes.
Plenty of time to late swap. TJ, what do you think of Springs today from a tournament perspective, and also that 6.5K prop? If you're going to like him, you think he can get there against this A's team? You pull up plate IQ, and it doesn't really look too threatening from Oakland. It's just a whole bunch of red. There's plenty of K rates. He was awesome against right-handed batters, and I think he's got 7 of them in there today.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, Springs, I think, is a great play. I would take the salary discount on FanDuel, but we don't even really have to worry about that too much because there's so many cheap bats on FanDuel. On DraftKings, you get to play whatever pitcher you want. On FanDuel, you basically get to play whatever batter you want because there are all-star caliber players sitting there at 2.8K, 2.9K all the time. So I like that quite a bit. I just want to couple touch on basketball real quick, just as a few more starting lineups are coming in here. The Spurs are starting Champagne and Mamu, so get both of them in your lineup. I really like them both today. I think that's a pretty decent way to get different. Then going back to baseball here, even though I'm only playing single entry stuff today, and so my pitcher pool is extra tight because obviously I'm just playing 2 of them. On FanDuel, if I was MMEing, I think there's 6 players I would keep in my pool: Springs, Senga, Lodolo, Perez, Steele, and Falter. I would rank them probably Lodolo 1, Steele 2, Springs 3 on a point per dollar standpoint. And then I would just want to include those other 3 in there in case of ceiling games. And then on DraftKings, when it comes to pitcher, my pool is even smaller. It's smaller. It's down to 5. Springs, Lodolo, Steele, Perez, and Falter, just because Falter's all the way down at 6.8K. He's projecting really well in the bat. Perez, 7.3K. That's just too cheap for him. And then Justin Steele, obviously, that's too cheap there as well. So in my 2 lineups I'm playing on DraftKings, I only have Springs, Lodolo, and Steele. But if I was playing a lot of lineups, I would expand to Perez and Falter as well.
Yeah, every pitcher on DraftKings is too cheap today, in my opinion. They're all the studs are at least 1,000, if not more, underpriced than they should be to me. So I think that's the lay of the land for pitching. I really like Springs. I like Lodolo. I like that price discount on FanDuel you get on Lodolo. It lets you get pretty much all of the actual Tampa Bay Rays bats. So I guess we can switch to offense. Actually, TJ, there's 32 likes. What are we going to get to? 50 for the first Spidey bomb of the day?
Yeah, 50 for the first Spidey bomb of the day.
All right. So click that like button, everybody. We'll get a home run prop. I'll pull it up on the FanDuel Sportsbook or on Scores and Odds. We'll see where we can get the best odds, but anxious to see who TJ has. I've got a couple home run props. They're from the late slate, though. I'll talk about those in just a little bit. But for offense cards on the early slate, the best hitting weather, it's in Tampa Bay. It's in a dome. It's not good weather out there today. It's 50 degrees, the wind blowing in most places. And then you've got the game in San Francisco where it's also 50. The wind's blowing out there, but it doesn't really do too much to the ball there. How are we handling, right, from the, cash game perspective? It's pick your favorite 4, pick your favorite 5 Rays bats, filling around it. What are we doing for offense outside of that Tampa Bay game against the Oakland pitcher who he did not have it in his first Major League Baseball start coming over from Japan? We'll see if he has it in the second start.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised really at our ownership. If you take, let's see, the top 14 hitters on FanDuel in terms of projected ownership, only 2 of them are Rays. I don't know if I believe that, or maybe I'm overvaluing how people are going to feel about the Rays because people still think that they're the Rays and, 7-0, who cares? It's baseball. Anything can happen over a small sample, but just surprises me that they're not grading out as a little bit more chalky.
I pulled up the bat ownership, and the ownership from the bat, maybe because the bat likes the Rays, but it's definitely loaded with Rays towards the top of them.
Yeah, I think they'll end up. I think we maybe got their ownership on our projection or our RG projections, which I am using, a little bit light on the Rays today for what it's worth. But Brandon Lau, I mean, he's going to be the guy. I think that's obviously all the guys in the top, 5 of that lineup are going to be pretty popular, but you got to have a few. Diaz leading off. Paredes hit a grand slam last night. Rayleigh's in there hitting fifth today. He's 2,600 on FanDuel. I mean, all these guys I think you could consider. I probably will, assuming that they're going to be chalky, maybe be underweight on them in GPPs, but it's not like there's a lot of great offense on this slate. Like the other guys that are grading out well are Trey Turner and Real Muto, and I don't love picking on bats against on picking hitters against Lodolo either. So I think my favorite offense in terms of my exposure versus the field is probably like either the Giants against Singer or the Royals, which always feels gross and generally never works. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you mentioned wanting to have the all-day slate as the main slate, and this is why, because nothing that I can spew out of my mouth right now is going to make these offenses look a whole lot better in the grand scheme of things. So those are my general thoughts.
TJ, offense as a general thought, mine is probably the Mets, right? Give me Marte, give me Lindor, give me Alonso against Rogers the second time too to start the season. I think that's a pretty good spot to look for. What are you doing for general offense? Do you think the Rays, should you go overweight on the Rays or should you mix it up a little bit? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that, guys. Dogs were going crazy. I'm going underweight on the Rays in tournaments today. My main tournament I'm playing 2 lineups, and my tournament stacks are both of them are kind of full stack, as stacky as I can be. I'm not going the kind of 2-2-2-2 route today, anything like that. And I'm going with one lineup is the Mets and the Tigers, and the other lineup is Boston and KC. And so I'm trying to pick up some spots that I think, like, it's not like the Rays are in some wildly amazing position out here in Coors Field today. You know what I mean? And so their lineup does have a lot of right-handers, which limits their pinch hit risk, which makes me like them more than I usually would. But I'm kind of with Cards. I think the ownership's going to be up high, and I'm looking to differentiate in tournaments today.
Yeah, you like KC too. What has you like in KC? The same with Cards.
Manaea can't strike out or limit power to right-handed bats. He just gets absolutely smacked by right-handed bats. And Bobby Witt, Sal Perez, Olivares, Reyes. It's a nice little mini stack to hunt some home runs from. All
right, we just hit 50 likes. TJ, it's time for the Spidey Bomb.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thief.
All right, nice graphic there from producer Rob. TJ, you got to top that with a guaranteed home run blast. I've got scores and odds pulled up. Who are we looking at?
All right, so gonna be just based on his start to the season, it shouldn't be all that surprising because this guy is hot, but he's not picking up too much ownership today on this small slate. I'm going with Adam Duvall to hit a dinger today as the Spidey Bomb. But for what it's worth, we were just talking about KC, and I do really like Witt, Perez, Olivares, all 3 of those guys to potentially knock one out of the park today. So KC is kind of my favorite mini stack on the board, but my favorite tournament stack is Boston, and the Spidey Bomb is Adam Duvall.
All right, Cards. Let's play what is Adam Duvall's home run prop line set at today?
I've got it open because I was curious.
Cheating.
I was curious to see what Patrick Wisdom was at to see if I needed to run that back again. After
I
last
do
Sunday.
like Wisdom to hit a home run today too, even though I like the pitchers in that game since the weather's not great.
But he's still only plus 500. The books are getting on to Patrick Wisdom. So
Duvall plus 390. See, I don't know. That's not something I'm jumping out to hit, but I put it in there. If TJ's telling me he's going yard, I'm going to put some money on that.
Yeah, no, I don't. Hey, he's off to a good start, and the Tigers are pretty bad. So I don't mind that call.
You mentioned Bobby Witt too. I think I do have a Bobby Witt home run ticket in there. Let me pull him up for everybody. I think his odds were in the plus 500, maybe a little bit better. Bobby Witt plus 680 on our sponsor Fanduel to go yard today. That's more of like the home
That's
run.
my favorite bet.
Yeah, those are
Just
some
like
of
straight up,
my,
yeah.
that's the 600, 700 to hit home run. That's where I like to go in. So the Bobby Witt plus 680. I think I already have that in, but that's another one from TJ. All right, let's go position by position. Catcher cards. Sal Perez. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, he's always fine. And probably going to be one of the more popular choices for the Royals today. Though he is 4,800 on DK, 3K on FanDuel, where you don't need to play a catcher. I always like playing him over there. Real Muto will probably be the one that's, really popular, but I like getting on the Royals. Obviously, we're kind of on the same page there. So, yeah, give me Perez as my favorite. Stevenson's hitting cleanup for Cincinnati, but it's just a pretty weak pool of catchers today, and I'll take Perez on a good chunk of my lineups.
And I want to know, too, for home run props, I don't think the books have adjusted. If you want to go check out Mr. Derek Carty's timeline, he is telling us that the home runs are up compared to last year. So I don't know if the books have adjusted. Maybe it's a little bit due to weather, but I know Carty takes all that into effect. But he seems to think the ball everyone is getting the Aaron Judge balls this year in terms of being able to hit home runs. So always good to jump on those from the book perspective. TJ catcher. Sal Perez looking pretty popular. Real Muto, but you got to take him against Lodolo. How are you handling that position?
Yeah, Sal Perez is my favorite by a fairly wide margin. And if I'm not playing him, I'm just playing somebody like he's the only catcher I'd play on FanDuel. And then on DraftKings, it's just if it's not him, it's whoever's in your stack. So guys that I find myself going to today, Thomas Nido, maybe a little Connor Wong. But Salvador Perez is definitely kind of the one-off guy that I'd go with, or just like the bar none top option on the board. Reminder: the Spidey Bombs, Adam Duvall, Bobby Witt Jr. If Sal Perez wasn't so high owned at that catcher position, we'd maybe throw him in there as well. And then 75 likes for us to drop a Spidey Bomb for the late slate as well.
Okay, let's go to first base. There's two guys really standing out to me cards. It's Yandy Diaz, it's Pete Alonso, both in reasonably good spots. Alonso with the splits against Rogers. Diaz basically hits everybody, showing a little pop to start the season as well. You got to pick one. Which one is it? Oh, and I want to throw for cheap too. You got Luke Raley on there on DraftKings. You can even mix him in on FanDuel as well. So that's basically the three pieces I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, if you're ever going to give me Pete Alonso versus Yandy Diaz straight up, I'll just take Alonso and take my chances every time. Obviously, there's, we got salary cap factor in here, but, Diaz isn't exactly cheap. He's 4,800 on DraftKings. Alonso's 56. He's 3,100 on FanDuel. Alonso's 38. So give me Alonso against the lefty at less ownership. So Alonso would be my choice. Lamont Wade, I think, is fine as well. If you're looking to go cheap, he's leading off. Not that he's the special talent or anything like that, but leading off against Singer today, 2,500 on FanDuel, pretty cheap on DK as well. So, I'd probably go Alonso and Wade for overweight, Diaz for underweight. I don't mind if you want to mix in a Trey Mancini or Vinny P or somebody like that, but they're definitely farther down the wish list today.
TJ, you got anyone you're looking at from a tournament perspective? A little bit different. What do you think of Luke Raley? Cards didn't mention him too much.
Same guys you already mentioned on DraftKings. For me, it's Alonso if you're going up, it's Raley if you're going down, and then somebody I really like differentiating with over there on tournaments is Jock Peterson.
Second base, cash games. Brandon Lau looks like to be the locked-in guy on both sides for me today, cards.
Yeah, for sure. That's the one Tampa Bay guy that I think, be hard to get away from. You can even use him as a one-off in GPP if you're not stacking the Rays and just hope he's the guy that does most of the damage because, hard to get excited about a lot of other bats at the position. I don't think this is the optimal spot to spend up for, you can obviously, there's guys you can play to spend up for at every position. I just don't think second base is the spot to, spend high 3Ks on FanDuel or 5K on DraftKings for a Jonathan India or Marcus Semien, guys like that. So Brandon Lau, go a little cheap. This is a spot where I think even if I'm not stacking the Rays, I think I'll eat a little bit of chalk because I just don't like a whole lot of options at this position today.
TJ, how are you handling? I expect massive ownership on Lau from a tournament perspective. Does that work? Or would you take probably half the ownership on an India or somebody else?
I love the idea of fading Brandon Lau in tournaments because, obviously baseball is a long-term sample size sport, and we don't want to look at short-term stuff too often because we can't quantify when a player is going to snap out of something or pop back into something. Often it's difficult to tell what's luck versus when they're sometimes off. But Brandon Lau doesn't have any. He only has 3 singles this year. He hasn't gotten anything past first base. He doesn't have a single RBI. I love the idea of playing Paredes at second base in a Tampa Bay stack instead of Lau. And then somebody else that I'm getting to in my tournaments lineups is just play anybody else and you're different. So play whoever you're stacking with. If it's McNeil with the Mets, fine. If it's I'm playing Nick Maton today leading off for the Tigers. I'm playing Christian Arroyo in my Red Sox stack. So I just feel like play literally anybody else to get different, and then Paredes on DraftKings at that second base spot if I'm doing a Tampa Bay stack, and just leaving Lau out of it is kind of my favorite thing to do in tournaments.
All right. Third base, there's a lot of strange multi-position eligibility players you can play at third base today. So you've got Bobby Witt and Yandy Diaz on Fanduel. You've got Diaz over on DraftKings as well as a nice third baseman. If you were playing, maybe like a Luke Raley or someone at first base, or you went up to a Pete Alonso to get them, you could slide Yandy Diaz over to third. That's probably some of the guys I'm looking at. And on FanDuel, you've got Paredes. I had him last night at I think it was plus 750 to hit a home run. That was with a lefty starter, and it was plus 600 today off a righty. Don't like it as much today. But he's very cheap. He's a little bit more down in the order today, but that price on FanDuel is very interesting card.
Yeah, those multi-position eligibility guys will be getting a good chunk of the ownership. Otherwise, it's a position where I think a lot of people will go cheap. JD Davis is, getting some ownership. Nick Maton's getting some ownership because he's leading off. But these guys just don't grab you a whole lot in terms of ceiling. So this is a spot where I think you can spend up to be different. Rafael Devers, I think, is really interesting. Nobody ever plays him lefty on lefty. Not like Wentz is very good, and he might not be long for the game. Who knows? Justin Turner, I think, is another guy that, could get overlooked today. And so a spot where maybe you can spend up to be different. I think Spencer Steer hitting second for Cincinnati is okay. Also, he's been a little hit or miss, has shown a little bit of pop. 2,800 on FanDuel, probably more of a FanDuel play there than a DK play with the $2,800 price. Of course, I already mentioned Patrick Wisdom once. Again, big time power facing Perez, who is always finds his way with his lucky charm to get out of jams. But all those guys I mentioned there, Turner, Wisdom, Devers, you're getting single digit ownership on all of them today. So interesting for GPPs.
If you were playing a Detroit stack, Austin Meadows has been scratched, so I don't know if I have a new Detroit lineup, but just make sure if you were playing them, he's out. Going to get a 0 from him. You can win with zeros and multiple zeros and even negatives in baseball, but you probably don't want to. Your goal should be taking the 0. All right, let's go to shortstop.
I want to give a quick shout out to Austin Meadows as well. The reason why he was scratched is because he's taking a little bit of time away to focus on his mental health. And so that's never an easy decision to make, especially when you have an opportunity to play a game for a living. I'm sure he'd absolutely love to just be out there enjoying himself. And so it's a very difficult decision to make. And I want to give some kudos to Austin Meadows for prioritizing himself and his mental health and taking some time away.
Aaron Wise pulled out of the Masters for the same reason. So got to be especially difficult with golfers. You qualify for the Masters and decide to skip it in your best interest. So yeah, always tough, I'm sure. And, it's easy to say, hey, these guys are making millions of dollars. What do you got to be stressed out about? But easy to just see that side of the coin and not, all the pressure and the social media and all that stuff too that goes on that we don't see every day.
Yeah, everyone has their own. There's no one who has a life with no problems. I can assure you of that. I want to go back to shortstop cards and ask you if you got to pick one, because you can only play 5 Rays on DraftKings. You can only play 4 on Fanduel. At least, I don't know if you have some sort of cheat code, but that's all I'm allowed to do. So does Willy Adames, or not Willy Adames, Wander Franco make the cut for you of the Rays you want to play, or are you trying to play Bobby Witt against Mania there? Those are the two I'm really looking at. And based on the other Tampa Bay Rays that you're playing, Franco might have to be on the outs personally.
Yeah, just because there's enough other options at this position. Maybe he ends up going a little lower owned too. So, some people might consider him as a one-off and fade the rest of the Rays and hope Franco does a lot of the damage, and that could be a GPP winning type of strategy here. So I don't mind him as a one-off play. But again, I'm not all about stacking Tampa today, so I'm fine with being underweight. Witt, I like a little better. Lindor, I think I like a little better against a lefty. Dansby Swanson, certainly fine against the lefty as well. So you got plenty of options at this position to where, Franco is also 4K on FanDuel, 5,400 on DraftKings. So he's very expensive, and I know he's been great. The whole team has. But yeah, probably underweight on him today. And if I was playing him, I'd like him more as a one-off than as part of a stack.
TJ, how are you handling the shortstop position?
Weirdly, and I'm still kind of upset here that I was excited to play a low-owned Maton at leadoff at second base and ugly second base here position today. And Austin Meadows, who's batting 6th, gets scratched. And somehow Maton changes from the leadoff hitter to the 5th hitter in the lineup. So I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but that's what I was trying to figure out, is they have Akili Badu as their leadoff hitter now today. But at shortstop, if I'm playing a Tampa stack, Franco is a absolute priority for me. He's probably where I'm starting my Tampa stack. But Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be my favorite shortstop play here for tournaments. I really, on DraftKings, where he's pretty cheap, batting 8th, nobody's going to be playing him. I like the idea of getting a Kike Hernandez. I think he's got a lot of upside going up against a lefty today. But for the most part, it's Franco or Witt or Lindor as the top plays. I'd rank them for cash: Franco, Witt, Lindor, and then for tournaments, just flip it: Witt, Lindor, and Franco.
If anyone was playing Jacob Stallings, probably not a high-owned player, but he has also been scratched for today. So that is the catcher for the Marlins. He's out. I don't know who's going to be in yet, but if you were playing Stallings, get him out of your lineup. Let's go to the outfield. Finish this up. We'll take some questions from Discord and YouTube. Arozarena, big priority for me today, cards. Other than that, you can mix in, I guess on FanDuel, you don't need the ultra cheap guys. On DraftKings, if you want to play some of the guys, maybe you need a Reif Snyder or somebody like that, but it's, Arozarena, a couple of the mid-tier plays. You've got Reif Snyder on DraftKings as a value bet, and that's pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah, you don't need to get too cute on FanDuel. And if you're going cheaper at pitcher, maybe you don't need to as much on DraftKings as well. But I think you're finding one guy that you want to spend up for. For most people, that's probably going to be Arozarena, maybe Starling Marte. But then you can kind of live in that mid-range. I mean, there's a whole lot of guys around. Throw Adam Duvall in that high-end mix as well. Who TJ mentioned earlier as the homer call. So, but otherwise, you can live in the mid-range or value range. Guys like Mark Canha hitting 5th for the Mets, Franmil Reyes, who we mentioned earlier as one of those right-handed power bats against Manaea, Melendez, Michael Conforto. I mean, these are all guys that aren't going to break the bank. And since there's not a ton, you don't have the, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, George Springer, like on this day slate. You don't have Coors on the day slate. There's just not a ton that you need to spend up for in the outfield. And again, if you want more contrarian plays, guys are going to go under own that, that have some ceiling. Yoshida hitting cleanup would be one because he's a little expensive, but it's just not surprisingly thin pool of outfielders, which means all the good ones are probably going to be playing in that night slate tonight.
Yeah, we got those. TJ, what are you looking at to get different? If Arozarena, if Luke Raley, if these guys from the race stacks end up being popular, I know the bat really likes Jazz Chisholm leading off for the Marlins today, even against Senga. What would we be doing? You mentioned Duvall as your first Spidey bomb of the day. What else are you doing to get different?
Same things as all the other positions. So I like Boston, I like Detroit, I like the Mets, and I like San Fran and KC. Those are the main places that I'm targeting all my lineups from today. So on the high end, expensive guys today, Adam Duvall obviously was a Spidey bomb. Don't mind the Jazz Chisholm call whatsoever. Starling Marte is somebody that I like. In the mid tier, somebody like a Riley Green, I don't mind getting to today at all. Who else is this one? Sorry, my computer just froze on me here. Who else is in the mid tier that I like getting to? The San Fran guys, like a Mike Yastrzemski, something like that, I'm fine with as well. But on the cheap side, Edward Olivares is somebody that I really like getting to as well. Also, Kerry Carpenter for Detroit at 2.8K batting cleanup is somebody I like quite a bit.
All right, get a couple more likes in. We needed 75 to get a couple night slate Spidey bombs from TJ. We're just 15 or so away from that. We would appreciate that. I've got a couple home run props and some other things I'm looking at on the night slate. I'll give you those as well. But I guess let's go to questions. We'll round those out. I don't see any in Discord, so I'm going to go to YouTube. I see TJ's been in there talking quite a bit of them, but let's see if we've got any more he hasn't answered. Anyone on Tanner Houck today with the Tigers lineup getting changed last second? Does that make any sense to throw him in a tournament for anyone?
I don't think it matters if the Tigers lineup changes or not. What does that matter? I suppose it got a little bit weaker, but it already pretty much stunk. I just don't know how much length we can expect out of Tanner Houck. I mean, 5 innings, his first time. He's never really been a guy going mega deep into games, and I suppose not a lot of starters are this time of year, but you just don't really need it today. So my answer is no.
TJ, there's a question from Josh. He wants to know, Will Myers to complete a 4-man stack, or would you throw in Raley from Tampa Bay as a one-off?
I would do Myers. I don't like picking any Tampa Bay players as one-offs today.
Okay, I think Tampa will be very popular, so I agree with TJ throwing them in as the one-off. Not exactly the most ideal tournament idea. Steele on DraftKings for an SP2. I have no problem with Steele. He looked great first time out. Plenty of strikeout upside against Texas. And the lefties, I mean, it's Seager and who is it, Nate Lowe. I mean, those guys are going to be, he's almost impossible to hit as a lefty. I don't know. I think Steele's a great tournament play at half the ownership of guys like Springs and Madolo today.
Yeah, I love Steele.
Cards, you on that too?
Yeah, no problem here.
Yeah, Steele's just fine. Steele, I would expect Steele to be the third highest owned pitcher on both sites today, behind Springs and Madolo. Let's see. Nothing in YouTube. Raley or Nate Lowe for cash? That's pretty easily Raley for me today.
I would agree.
TJ?
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, we're gonna the Rays. I think are going to be extremely popular, and Raley's been hard not to play him if you're choosing between those two. Spencer Strider enthusiast. He wants to know about Brady Singer. So he's not Brady Singer enthusiast, but cards. You look at the plate IQ on Singer, and it's like, I could see it, but not someone we're really actively targeting today.
Yeah, I don't know. In general, I tend to be a little bit lower than the field on him. I know Cheese is a fan in general, so it's tough with Singer. He's a guy that's got talent. He's never really put it all together for a full season, and there's some signs that maybe he's going to become a higher strikeout guy. And I know the Giants aren't necessarily, a great offense by any means, but I would take Lodolo or Steele or Springs over Singer today.
Let's see here. K-Town's Finest from YouTube wants to know DraftKings tourney thoughts. Ruiz for Oakland, right? So you're probably, you're taking a hitter mainly for some stolen base upside against Springs probably. Is that something you might want to have any interest in to get really different? I mean, that's pretty out there to me today.
Not something that's on my radar.
TJ, I mean, it's a very small sample if he gets on base, he's probably going to be trying to steal some bases. But I see you shaking your head, right?
Not for me, no.
Yeah, I would say that's a trifecta of not for me on that one. Just trying to scroll back through YouTube here. TJ, what did you come across? Maybe we can talk on air for people not in the chat. What were some questions you already answered in there?
Yeah, no, that's about it for me. 12 more likes away from the Spidey Bomb for the late slate. I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, so what do we got? 3 or 4 minutes. Let me double check Discord. Discord looks good. YouTube looks good for questions. All right, let's go to the late slate. We have offenses we want to use cards, and pitching we don't want to use, and weather that could throw a wrench into just about everything. So Mr. Kevin Roth, the chief meteorologist here at RotoGrinders, has the Atlanta game as orange yellow. If you guys are new to RotoGrinders and you ever see orange to start off, alert bell should be going off in your head here. So he thinks this game might not go, which does take out some bats. Some we might want to use. It takes away, a couple pitchers. Charlie Morton up there didn't really have a great first start, but the pitching on the night slate's not really that great either cards. So if he's got that as orange, we'll probably know what's going to happen on that one before the start of the game at 7:20, especially if it's been raining there all day and they end up calling it, sometime in the next hour or two. What are we doing for pitching here? Because you take more. The bat has some of these guys not really looking too well. You've got your boy Jordan Montgomery. I don't think the bat's pretty much high. I know the RotoGrinders projections like him a little bit more than the bat. There's just not really a lot of pitching. Can you make any separation of these guys?
Yeah, so it's tough. A lot of these pitchers, you're just looking to avoid the landmines. And as much as I don't want to talk up the Cardinals today, because I took myself and the family and drove 2 hours and 45 minutes last night to watch the game, and then they got shut out, and then drove back home and got home at 1 a.m.
What a bad car ride back home.
It was a quiet ride, and others fell asleep, and I had to keep my eyes open for the 2.5 hour ride home. So got home at 1 a.m., got up at 7 o'clock today to go into work to do some taxes and then write the NBA article. So if I'm a little groggy today, it's because I wasted my time going to the Cardinals game last night and watching them get shut out. And then
get this man a nap. This man needs a nap.
It was just not exciting by the end of the day. So, as much as I'm despondent about them right now, right, that they haven't led in a game since the last show we did on Sunday, which maybe it's a good sign. So maybe they're going to turn it around tonight. But I think Montgomery he's going to be the chalky guy. If you assume that Morton's ownership is going to go down, it's going to, because enough people are going to be concerned by the weather. What's interesting is, once that rain moves through Atlanta, if you check the radar, once the rain moves through, it's going to be gone. It's just a matter of whether they wait it out until, 8 o'clock or 8:30. But it's also like 40 some odd degrees down there, which people aren't used to in Atlanta this time of year. So I don't know what they're going to do. I'll trust Roth. I'm not going to pretend to know what they're going to do. But if Morton ends up getting removed from this slate, who else are you going to use? Who else do you feel comfortable with? Tyler Anderson is the most expensive pitcher, and he's facing Toronto. No, you're not going to use him. Syndergaard, people don't like using him because he doesn't strike anybody out. Are you going to use a Lauer, lefty against the Cardinals? Probably not. Berrios, hasn't been the same since he went to Toronto. Then you're down to Michael Wacha and Cole Irvin against the Yankees. Who are you going to use?
Did I miss it, or have you just still not said my favorite tournament pitcher on the slate?
Well, if I haven't gotten down there, I was just going in order. So it's either
Johnny Brito.
Johnny Brito's the next guy on the list. Fine, I don't care. You can make a case for any of these guys if you want, because there's just not a lot separating them. I'll probably just play Montgomery, but I don't like him. It's not like he's this grade A gotta have option. You can make the case for Brito if you want. I'll let you.
Let's play the guy who only gave up 2 hits, no walks, and striked out 6 batters in 5 innings last game. It's a small sample, but maybe he's the best pitcher in the league.
On the slate, it's certainly possible.
We know outside of Montgomery and Morton, we know all of these guys aren't very good right now. But Brito looked really good last game, and at only 7K on DraftKings. What's his FanDuel price here?
It's 7.1
on FanDuel. Like I love the idea of going all the way down there on FanDuel too. So even on a one pitcher site, I like him a lot.
We've got him at 0.06% ownership. I think that's probably wrong, but
yeah, that'll go up. I would imagine the ownership for the late slate has not actually been run yet. So this is just sort of hanging on there from something else, if you ask me.
Yeah, but the bat has him at 20% on FanDuel right now.
Yeah, that sounds much more realistic. Just keep an eye, guys. If you're playing the late slate, we're not going to have a baseball. There's MMA. There's all this other stuff we have for shows later on tonight. Just make sure if you're watching this now or you're watching on later, pay attention to that weather in San Diego Atlanta game. That's got a 9 total. It's going to take out some offense. It might take out 2 pitchers that. It's a horrible pitching slate. You might be using these guys. Just pay attention to that. A little too early for us to make a call on that. I want to give a couple of bets from the late slate I was on. We need 7 more likes to get another Spidey Bomb. Click that from the late slate. I don't have a Spidey Bomb, but I've got a couple of bets. The first one was Paul Goldschmidt total bases cards. Don't look at this. Guess what I got at that this morning against Eric Lauer, a lefty. And I'm sure you know Paul Goldschmidt is literally about the best hitter there's ever been against left-handed pitching, at least if you look at last year's statistics.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably high. He looked horrible last night. And I mean, it's one game sample, but they've looked bad all week. Like, he was late on everything last night. So for what it's worth, I'm a little worried about him. And especially if he can't get on track tonight against a guy that, the Cardinals have had some success against and against a lefty. So hopefully tonight's the night they get on track. But his prop is probably lower than what you would expect against a lefty.
I got it at plus 130 this morning.
Plus 130 for what?
1.5. Yeah,
I would have said probably a little bit of plus juice on 2.5. So that seems reasonable if assuming that he's just.
It's like you can get it at plus 115 on FanDuel. It's minus 130. I would not take that, but you can still find that at plus money. Cards had the boots in the ground information of him looking. Yeah,
but that was against Brandon Woodruff for what it's worth. Lauer is not Brandon Woodruff.
So that's a total base prop, and then I have a home run prop from the Coors game. I'm expecting Lane Thomas to lead off plus 700. For him to hit a home run in Coors against Gomer. That was one of my favorite home run bets of the night. So there's 2 bets I have for the late slate. We didn't get there. We need 5 more if you want TJ's next Spidey Bomb. So we're going to skip over that, and let's just talk offense in general. And I'm going to go to TJ first. This is the slate with offense. We've got a game in Coors. We've got the Dodgers in Arizona. We've got Toronto and LA. If that Atlanta game plays, we could probably take some bats there. We've got St. Louis against the lefty with Goldschmidt and Arenado and some of these other guys. We've got the Yankees. I mean, it's just offense explosion. What are you going to be looking at here?
I think if you're playing lots of lineups, it's pretty easy because you just play your only 2 pitchers that you play today are Montgomery and Brito. And then you differentiate with all of these different stacks, mixing and matching them today. My 2 favorite on the board, I think, are probably going to be the Cardinals and the Dodgers. Those are the 2 teams I'm getting the most of today, followed by the Yankees. Coors Field is kind of falling pretty low on my list today, if I'm being honest. Like, I wrote it up on the expert survey today. I think there's going to be at least 5 teams that outscore the Coors Field's teams today. And so my top 3 are going to be the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and the Yankees.
Cards. He's backing your Cardinals over Coors Field. What do you think of that? Is that enough for you to like them today?
No, probably not. Again, they haven't led in a game for a week, so it's baby steps for me. They're fine. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It'd be really interesting because it's on these slates with a lot more offense. You would expect the Coors ownership to go down, but after last night, when Washington went off, the recency bias will have Coors Field ownership going up. So I'm really interested to see where the projections end up coming out on this because it's a fantastic matchup for the offenses. Gomber isn't good. He walks a lot of guys. It's just a terrible matchup whenever he pitches at Coors for him, even against the Nationals. So, but if everybody's going to play the Nationals again, I don't have a problem going to some of these other teams. The Rockies are generally a little more expensive. I think if I'm picking an offense in Coors, I'd probably go with the Rockies tonight against Williams. But I don't have a problem pivoting to the Cardinals or the Dodgers. I think the game that really becomes interesting for tournaments is the real late game, because you're not going to see a lot of ownership on that. And again, our projections are probably still being fine-tuned. And certainly, you get some ownership on maybe Ohtani or Trout, but not a whole lot of ownership on Toronto against Anderson. And this is an offense that they don't strike out a lot. They foul off a lot of pitches. It's a pesky team that nobody's on tonight. TJ mentioned the Yankees too against, Irvin. Like, there's so many possibilities that I think that tonight is the night that, no matter who it is, whatever team ends up being the chalk, I don't have a problem being underweight on them because there are so many other choices. And right now, I think at this moment, Toronto would probably be my favorite in terms of sneaky.
Yeah, Toronto, you can get Vlad, had pretty good odds to hit a home run. And I think even Ohtani and Trout had some pretty good plus odds tonight too. I think I saw a couple of those on Scores and Odds. I've got news for everyone, TJ. Have you seen how many likes we have now?
77. Time for a Spidey Bomb.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thief.
Gets me every time. I'm just expecting Steve's graphic to pop up, and then no, it's the video. Gleyber Torres, Spidey Bomb of the day. Ryan McMahon is going to be the most high-owned play on the slate by a fairly wide margin today in terms of batters, at least. And so, same position, second base. Gleyber Torres hitting one out of the park today. And then if you're looking for something cheap, something a little sneakier, I got James Outman to hit a home run as well.
Are Spidey Bombs more or less likely to hit when you phone it in and don't put the mask on? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen.
It doesn't have a direct correlation. It may or may not on the likes. It may get more likes if I put the mask on, but in terms of if the Spidey Bomb were to hit or not, no correlation on if I put the mask on or not.
I found a plus 600 on Gleyber Torres out there. If you guys want to shop around, you can use Scores and Odds to find the best odds for that particular home run. All right, offense in general, we'll run through position by position. A little quick, we don't have all the lineups, so things could be fluent. Again, we're recording this earlier in the day. If you happen to be watching this, a little bit closer to lineup lock. Cards, what are we looking at from the catcher position?
Yeah, you're going to see a few more options at these positions. Again, as you mentioned, pending lineups. But you're going to see people on Will Smith and Wilson Contreras probably here. If the Braves game goes, the bats on that game are going to be significantly under-owned because of the concerns about the weather. So I won't mention them at every position, but you're going to be able to get guys like Travis d'Arnaud, who is hitting cleanup today, assuming the game goes, at pretty low ownership. So give me him as my tournament play. I mean, you could always punt or throw a guy in, as part of your stack, or you can always play Adley Rutschman. But yeah, Smith, if you're on the Dodgers, Wilson Contreras, eventually those Cardinals righty power bats are going to break out against the lefties. So fine with those guys tonight as well.
TJ, what are you looking at?
Sorry, I tuned out for the second. What was the question again?
Oh, catcher tournaments.
Oh, sorry. Position by position. Sorry, I missed where we were at in the transition, so I didn't want to just give a BS answer. Glad I did, because I probably wasn't going to start talking about catchers. Wilson Contreras is top guy on the board for me by a fairly wide margin. If you want to get to Danny Jansen, Adley Rutschman, I don't know why I said those guys back to back. Jansen and Ruiz are kind of your cheap ones, and then Rutschman or Will Smith are kind of your expensive ones. But Wilson Contreras is definitely my favorite guy on the slate.
All right, first base. Always lots of options at this. I mean, Gold. If you have the money, I'm going in on Goldschmidt against Lauer. I've got his total base prop at over 1.5. You can find him to get a home run at pretty good odds too. He's my guy. But I mean, you've got Vlad, Ohtani, Crone. You can't really go wrong if you're spending. Yeah, you can't go wrong if you're spending at first base tonight.
Yeah, and these high-end guys are just somebody's going to have a big game here tonight. Vlad, definitely my favorite for tournaments. If you're on FanDuel, you can go with Meneses or Candelario, but I think I'm going to probably end up slightly underweight on Washington tonight just because there's so many options. So Freeman, Goldschmidt, but my favorite for tournaments is Guerrero.
Right, I'm focusing on TJ's mind, and I see a Vlad Guerrero home run tonight. I hope so because I bet that, and I think Grant wrote it up on Scores and Odds as well. Are you on Vlad? Not the greatest season for Vlad last year against lefties. Can he turn it around this year?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like if you look at the background stacks outside of just the ISO and stuff like that, he still had a 45% hard hit rate against left-handed batters last year. Just had trouble getting the ball up in the air a little bit. And so like a guy like Tyler Anderson, who isn't going to be striking anybody out from the right side of the plate, and then who is a fly ball pitcher to guys on the right side of the plate, sign me up for Vladimir Guerrero as well today. He does fall behind Goldschmidt and Ohtani for me. I like both of those guys better. But don't hate the Vlad call to hit a home run whatsoever. And this is basically a position today that I'm making sure I spend up on. Like I want to be, I'll save salary elsewhere. I'm spending up at first.
Yeah, I would agree completely with that one. Second base, we've got Ryan McMahon. That sounds pretty good. You've got, if you like stolen bases, there's a couple options for those against Syndergaard cards. How are you handling that?
I think the stolen base props are really interesting this year because, everybody's talking about the bump in steals. So, and nobody's going to be playing Arizona, but they do have guys, I think, that match up well against him. Obviously, we know Carroll's got a bunch of speed. You got Marte at second. McMahon's going to be the chalk here because it's not a very good position. But a guy like Gleyber Torres, I think, is really interesting for upside in GPPs. Albies, if that game goes, certainly fine as well. Not the deepest position tonight.
Did you take a look at the odds on the Arizona guys? They're like plus 150 for stolen bases tonight.
The sports books are done getting hosed on the Syndergaard stolen base props. They are not going to discount those anymore.
Yeah, it's almost too much this year. They've overcorrected. I don't think I would bet on the first Syndergaard start. They opened at around like plus 350, and within 5 minutes they were in like the low 200s. So someone, they just took in a lot of money on those, and they got hosed on that. And like you said, they're not taking that damage anymore from the stolen bases. TJ, second base. We've got Ryan McMahon, you've got Rojas, right, leading off against Syndergaard. From fantasy, I think it makes more sense to play him in fantasy than it does to take a stolen base prop. You've got Ketel Marte, which of those guys makes it for you from the second base? McMahon looks to be, at least to me, he's going to be the clear obvious choice for most people.
Yeah, McMahon is probably going to be the chalkiest batter on the slate. My two favorite things to do in tournaments are either on DraftKings going all the way up to a guy like Mookie Betts, or on both sides playing Gleyber Torres, who of course was the Spidey bomb. Somebody like a Ketel Marte or a Josh Rojas, I wouldn't fault you for playing either, but Torres is definitely going to be my favorite in tournaments. And from an optimal standpoint, McMahon is the best batter on the slate.
Third base cards, couple of options. Arenado, Muncy. I still think Arenado against Lauer. I mean, the Arenado and Goldschmidt are just, I know there's no lefty matchers according to the bat, but these guys are lefty matchers.
Yeah, I hope so. But I think, and also interesting is that the ownership on him is probably going to be down a bit again. You got the bat up there. I've got our projections up, but what's the bat got Arenado's ownership at?
12. The bat's always condenses ownership quite a bit, but it's at a little 12 and a half.
Yeah, but not super chalky by any means. No. So yeah, I think he's a really strong play there, whether you're stacking the Cardinals or not. He's probably the guy I feel the best about. I'm never a huge fan of Muncy, and he's going to be somewhat popular, though it's Davies. So he could get there as well. But If I'm choosing between the two, I probably would go with Arenado tonight. This does tend to be a spend up position for me. I do like Matt Chapman in tournaments as well. We've already talked about being high on Toronto.
What about Candelario at all as a salary saver? It looks like the Bats currently projecting him as the highest owned third baseman.
I mean, he's fine in cash, but yeah, I'm probably tournament's probably underweight on the Nats here.
TJ, who's hitting a home run at the third base position?
You can't devalue the Spidey bombs by just saying everybody's going to be hitting a home run on this slate. Like, I got to at some point.
Who's going to hit 3 doubles?
Be a home run. I'm going to be getting it right every slate. So Muncy is probably going to be my favorite guy here outside of Nolan Arenado. Like Arenado is tier 1 for me at this position, and then Muncy's going to come in too. Matt Chapman, I think, is a guy that could hit a home run tonight at much lower ownership. So Chapman and Arenado are both guys that I like either as one-offs or in stacks. And then Muncy is a guy that I really like with my Dodger stacks as well.
All right. Shortstop, we've got another Cardinals, Tommy Edman, leading off against Lauer. That looks good. Are we playing him? We go into a cheaper option. We spending up cards. A lot of different ways to look at this tonight.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably out on Edman. Like, he gets most of his value with his legs. I don't trust the stolen base upside against Lauer. I don't think they're going to want, and again, this is assuming he leads off. We don't know that yet. At least I don't think we do. I haven't looked, but I don't think their lineup is out as we're taping this. But assuming he leads off, which he often does against lefties, I don't know if they're going to want to run into outs tonight because they're not scoring. And you got, Goldschmidt and Arenado and Contreras hitting behind him. So if he's leading off, I don't know if he's going to be running, and that's where he gives you the value. And he got caught last night stealing as well. So I think they might take it a little bit more cautious with Edman tonight. So I don't like him as much. In fact, I think even leaving him out if you're stacking the Cardinals is okay. And then you could pivot. You could even do a 1v1 pivot on Fanduel and just play, Profar or something. Bichette, I really like. Again, we know that I'm kind of on Toronto, so that's kind of a broken record. But Adames, because Montgomery is going to be the chalky pitcher tonight, I do not mind playing some one-off Brewers like power bats and GPPs. Adames would probably be the one that stands out the most. Homered last night. So, if I'm playing any Brewer tonight against a chalky Montgomery, it would be Adames. So Adames, Bichette, probably my plays at short.
TJ, what are we looking at from a tournament look here?
Shortstop today, Bo Bichette is somebody that I like. Tommy Edman leading off is somebody that I'm going to get to a lot as well. Those are going to be my top 2 options. But if you end up like outside of that, short is just a position I'm looking to include in my stacks today. Like if I land on Volpe or Chris Taylor or Tovar, like I'm fine with it. It is what it is. But Bichette and Edman are definitely the top 2.
All right. And then cards from the outfield. This is basically what I was looking at from a lineup perspective. You can go, why were we talking, spending up on first base? One, because pitching is, we're not spending a lot on pitching, but you can spend up at a lot of these other positions. I promise you cards. We're almost done here.
No, you're fine.
There's a lot of cheap outfielders in this Coors game on both sites today between Lane Thomas, right? I picked him as one of my favorite home run props. Then if you want to take some stolen bases against Syndergaard, all of those Arizona bats are cheap. You can get some cheap value in the outfield. It allows you to spend up on some other positions. And then outside of an Ohtani or Trout, or, you can throw in a Chris Bryant too, who I think is a little bit underpriced. I'd play those guys over Aaron Judge, and the bat pretty much agrees with that as well. I don't know. Looks like a spot to save a little bit of money today in the outfield. Usually is as well.
Yeah, you certainly can. Alex Call had a great game last night, so he'll be chalky from the Arizona game tonight. The Coors game tonight. Boy, the 1 a.m. is starting to hit for sure. But the next time
when we were told that we were going to be covering this late slate after lock, I definitely thought we were going to briefly go over it, talk stacks and pitchers quick, not do like a full other entire crunch times show.
Listen,
after. Like
I'm in charge. We're giving the people what they want. We're giving the people what they want.
I got places to go here, Britt. I didn't sign on for a 90-minute show. We might as well just done 2 crunch times.
My next step is Easter dinner with the in-laws. So that's just
then you're
looming
going right to
bed. Yeah, so let's back up. Let's start that segment over. Carroll, McCarthy, those cheap Arizona guys against Syndergaard. I like the stolen base potential there that you hit on, Britt. I think you can get one of those affordable guys. Not that you need to go nuts unless you're stacking Arizona, which I think is okay. But you can get one of those guys on the cheap. Alex Call had a big night in Coors last night. If he's near the top of the order again, he would be a good potential mid-range option. The Cardinals generally start Dylan Carlson against lefties, and sometimes we've got him projected to hit second. There's another potential value option you can use tonight as well. JD Martinez, 3K on FanDuel. So it is a spot where maybe you get your favorite spend up. For me, that would probably be Ohtani or Trout, or I like Toronto, so you can always spend up for Springer. One of those guys, along with a couple of those value guys that I finally was able to spit out.
And then TJ, let's finish this off. Outfielder tournaments for the night slate.
I love the Carroll call. He's one of my favorite plays on the entire slate, kind of regardless of position here today. Up top, it's kind of Ohtani as the number one play. Trout falls behind him at number two. And then outside of those guys, it's either a stack or some of these one-offs like McCarthy, Corbin Carroll. If you get to Alex Call, I'm fine with that as well. Somebody like that. Tyler O'Neill is somebody I really like getting to. But for the most part, I'm just going to be including players in my stacks if their names aren't Shohei Ohtani.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks to everyone for staying on for the late show. Please click the like button on the way out. Cards, good luck at dinner, and hopefully you get some rest tonight. TJ, good luck with the rest of your day. Thanks.
I'm live in 15 minutes again here, Britt.
15. What's coming up for you in 15 minutes?
I got to break down the whole Star Wars celebration from Agents of Fandom
and
all the news that they came down.
Yeah. All right. So
we said no MLB late crunch time because MMA's on. These guys are on in 20 minutes now. Come on.
Thanks to everyone for watching. For TJ and Justin, I'm Britt, and we out you.